Hi everyone, it's me again. So in this video we will talk about market failures and we will talk about one factors that leads to market failure, that is externalities. So here is a brief review of last two videos. The first is the market equilibrium. It is the intersection of supply and demand curve, and from this graph, I believe you would be very familiar because you took several questions from the quiz. So from this graph, the equilibrium quantity is 4 units, because here is the equilibrium price, and because here is the equilibrium point, and the equilibrium price is $4. And also in last videos we talk about the demand and supply. Demand is the marginal willingness to pay for the good, and the area under the demand curve is the sum of marginal willingness to pay, or we can say is what I'm willing to pay, what the consumer is willing to pay for a product, for a good. And the consumer surplus is defined as the difference between what a consumer is willing to pay and what is actually paid. So as I said, this line, the area under this blue line, is what a consumer is willing to pay. However, the market price is this line, $3. So the area above the market price but below what a consumer is willing to pay is what we call consumer surplus. The next concept is supply, and we define supply as the marginal cost of producing the good, and the area below the area. So the supply curve is the red line on this graph. So the area below the red curve is the cost of producing the good. So from the producer's perspective, this area, the area below the red curve, is my production cost. But the market can pay more. The market can pay here. So the difference between what market can pay for me and what I supplied is the producer's surplus. Or we can say producer's surplus is the difference between the price at which a good is sold and the seller's cost of producing it. Also, its area below the price and above the marginal cost curve. And another concept is the market equilibrium. We talk about two conditions to reach the market equilibrium. The first one is supply equal to demand, and the second one is marginal benefits equal to marginal costs. So from my perspective, I think those two conditions are totally same, because marginal benefits curve is defined as the demand curve, and marginal costs curve is defined as the supply curve. So when we are talking about demand equal to supply, we are also talking about marginal benefits equal to marginal costs. Another concept is economic efficiency. So the condition for economic efficiency is maximizing the net benefits. In some cases, when we reach the market equilibrium, we can say, oh, I also reach the market, I also reach the economic efficiency at the same time, like we do in this figure. We can say, at this point, at the intersection of MB and MC, I reach the market equilibrium. I also maximize the sum of consumers surplus and the producers surplus. So in this figure, the market equilibrium is equal to market efficiency. Also from here, the market equilibrium from this example, SO2 abatement example in last video, the market equilibrium is defined as MB equal to MC, the intersection of those two lines, and also it is an efficient point, because at this point we maximize our net benefits. Finally, we finish the review for the last two videos. So here is the outline for today's new materials. First, I will talk about how we view the environment from economic perspective. Second, I will talk about the market failure and externalities. And thirdly, I will talk about the deadweight loss. So maybe you are confused. What is the deadweight loss? Well, it's fine. I will define later. So first, how we view the environment. So from economic perspective, we view the environment as a closed system. So a closed system is where there are no inputs and no outputs of energy and matter from outside. The large area, the gray area, and also the white area, the whole area, we call this the environment. We can see there is no inputs from outside. Also, there is no outputs to outside. There's no outputs from the gray area to the yellow area, right? Also, there's no inputs from the yellow area to the gray area. So because of that, we call the environment is a closed system. So within the environment, we are here. Our society is the economy. We produce some outputs to the environment, and also we get some inputs from the environment. So our economy is not a closed system, it's an open system. But the environment itself is a closed system. So why knowing what system the environment is important? Because it affects how we view the environment. Because the environment is a closed system, and when we get so much inputs, get so much energy, air, water from the environment, and when we produce so much pollution to the environment, how about our next generation? They will have nothing. Oh, for example, our next generation is fine. How about 3 generations later? They will get almost nothing, because we already use almost all of the resources, and we leave just the pollution. So how we view the system affects how we view the environment. Because the environment is a closed system, because so we need to view the environment from a sustainability perspective. We need to take care of the environment, calculate how much we need to use today, save something for tomorrow's use, save something for next generation, next generation. So that's what I called the sustainability perspective. The next section of this lecture is market failure. Why do markets fail? Why there are so many pollution? Even though we know all pollution is bad, is harmful, but why there are so many pollution? Why there are so many traffic? Why there are so many cars? So why do markets fail? When we get extreme amount of pollution, we can see markets for pollution fail. So markets can fail due to several reasons. For example, externalities, public goods, monopoly, information, transaction costs. And in this video, we talk about the externalities. How the externality would lead to market failure. From the economic theory, the pursuit of individual self-interest is socially optimal when there are perfect competitive markets. But because we have externality, because we have public goods, because we have monopoly firm, because we have information problems, because we have transaction costs, there is no perfectly competitive markets. So when there is no perfectly competitive market, our personal optimal level of supply and demand may be not socially optimal. So think about this example. I talked in last video the prisoner's dilemma from the introduction of game theory. There are two prisoners. They cannot talk with each other. They have two choices: defect or cooperate, and the outcome of their choices depends on their own action, also the other prisoner's action. So if both of them choose defect, each of them would get a 3-month sentence. And if both of them choose to cooperate, each of them would get a 1-month sentence. So from our discussion in the last video, when they cannot talk with each other, when they cannot communicate, both of them would choose to defect. So at that point, the social net benefit would be a 6-month sentence. But if they can communicate, if they were not separated to 2 rooms, they can choose to cooperate with each other. Then the social net benefit, the sum of sentence would just be 2 months. However, they can't. So we can say, in this case, the individual optimal level is not equal to social optimal level. We can say the market fails, and the market fails due to these 2 reasons. Due to this reason, information problem. They cannot get the information from the other people. So the individual optimal level is not equal to social optimal level. However, some of these cases, which is very similar to prisoner's dilemma, are very common in the real world. So that's the reason we want to fix the inefficient market. We want to fix those problems. And back to today's topic, the externality. What is an externality? An externality exists when the welfare of some agents depends not only on his or her activity, but also on activity under the control of some other agents. For example, I'm recording a video right now, right? So that's my activity. However, my activity can have some influence on you because you will learn something from this video. So that's a type of externality. Externalities can be positive or negative. So I'm recording a video, so that would be, I hope, that would be a positive externality for you. And think about this example. This would be an example for the negative externality. There is a firm producing steel. So from the industry's perspective, it only care about the profits, right? So even though when the industry produces steel, it's at the same time it produces some pollution. But the industry, the market, did not take the pollution damage into its production cost function. So from market's view, it only wants to find the intersection of the demand of the market demand and market supply curve E, or we can say it only wants to find the intersection of marginal private benefits and marginal private cost curve, that's E. And then at this point, the steel market itself can maximize the net benefit. However, as the society, or we can say the environment, absorbs the pollution from the industry production. So it not only considers the production costs, but also the pollution costs. So that would the red line would be the marginal social costs curve. From the society's perspective, the optimal level would be the intersection of the red line and the marginal private benefits curve rather than E. So that's another example, the negative externality example that leads to markets fail. That is, the market's efficiency or the market's optimal level is not the social optimal level. Here are three types of externalities. The first one is the negative externality, when the activity imposes costs on third party. And the second is the positive externality, whenever an activity imposes benefits on a third party. The first two are very simple to understand, right? The pollution is negative externality, and the education, or we can say the university education, high school education, they are positive externality. And the third one would be pecuniary. Maybe I pronounce wrong. Pecuniary externality. So it is defined when the external effect comes from altered price. Here are some examples of externality. The first is vaccines. If I get a flu shot, so on the one side, that would be a positive externality for other people, because that means I would not infect other people this flu later. But on the other side, that would be a negative externality, because it means there is some possibility that I would infect other people other kinds of flu. And the next example would be pollution. As I said before, the pollution is, at most of the time, the pollution is always considered as a negative externality. So here is a question. As a policymaker, how would you think about the optimal level to control the pollution? The third example would be the housing. For example, if I already have a house and I'm buying a second house for rental purpose, so this action, like buying a second house, would rise the price of the house market, because that means I decrease the demand for because that means I decrease the amount of available the amount of house available on the markets, and on the other hand, that means I increases the demand of the house. So when the demand increased, the price is also increased. So that's a third type of the externality. So the next concept would be or how to find the amount of this concept would be the most complicated part of this video. The concept is deadweight loss. So after this page, we will talk a lot about how to find the deadweight loss. So the deadweight loss is defined as the loss of economic efficiency in terms of net benefits for consumers and producers, such that the optimal allocative efficiency is not achieved. For example, at this point, I achieve the market efficiency. So when I achieve the market efficiency, that would be a market net benefit, right? So we call the market net benefit at market efficiency point A. The amount of the net benefit is A, and at this point, I cannot reach the market efficiency. However, there will also be a market net benefit, and I call this amount B. So the difference between A and B is the deadweight loss. So it's easy to understand, but how to find it, the process is not very interesting. When I was studying how to find the deadweight loss, I'm also suffering, and I find a new method which is not like 100% same as what I learned before, and I think this method is much easier to understand, and hope this method can help you. So first we want to find the deadweight loss from negative externality. Let's go back to the pollution. The pollution example. Here, the downsloping line is our marginal social benefits, because there is external costs. So the external cost would be not related to our marginal social benefits, right? So the marginal social benefits would be just the downsloping line. And however, we can say there are two marginal cost lines. There are two upsloping lines. The first one, I call it the marginal private costs. The second one, I call it the marginal social costs. So from producer, or we can say from market's perspective, it only cares about the marginal private costs. But from the society's perspective, since the market produces some pollution and there are some pollution costs, so from society's view, it cares about the marginal social, this line, marginal social costs. So first we talk about, we will start from the market equilibrium quantity, that is the intersection of marginal social benefits and marginal private costs. The equilibrium quantity would be Q1. So at this point, the market benefits would be area below this curve, below the marginal the marginal social benefits curve. That is A plus B plus E plus C plus F. And the market production costs would be those two areas under the marginal private cost curve. That is C and F. So the market surplus would be calculated by the by subtracting the marginal by subtracting market costs from market benefits. That is market benefits minus market costs. So the result would be the sum of area A, B, and E. So that is our market surplus. However, from the society perspective, the society benefit would be same, since there would be only one marginal social benefits curve. However, the social cost should be different from the marginal cost curve. So as we can see, the social benefit is exactly same from our market benefit. However, the social cost at quantity Q1, the social cost would be the area under the marginal social costs curve, would be the sum of B, E, D, and C and F. So the surplus of the social surplus would be the difference between social benefits and social costs, and the result is A minus D. So keep in mind that's the social surplus at quantity Q1. And when we move to the social equilibrium quantity, that is marginal social cost equal to marginal social benefit, Q2. At this quantity, we can say the market benefit is equal to A plus B plus C, and the market cost is equal to C. The area under the marginal private cost curve is C. So the difference would be the sum of A and B. A and B is the marginal surplus. And the social benefit at quantity Q2 would also be A plus B plus C. However, the social costs would be the area on the marginal social costs curve, B plus C. So the difference between social benefits and social costs, social surplus at Q2 would be A. So what we find now? At the market equilibrium quantity Q1, our social surplus is A minus D, but at the social equilibrium quantity, our social surplus is A. What do you find? That means the market optimal level is not equal to the social optimal level. By moving to pay attention to here, by moving to a quantity lower than the optimal market level, we raised the social surplus. Compared to the social surplus at Q1, we have additional area D at Q2. So in this case, we can call D is the deadweight loss from being at the optimal market level of production. D is the deadweight loss from being at the optimal market level of production. So that means the optimal market level of production is inefficient for society. And at the market optimal level, we can call this market unregulated. And when we control the production, and when we control the quantity produced, decrease the quantity from Q1 to Q2, we can say the society is better off if we decrease the quantities produced. So why is this the case? Because at Q1, as we can see, at Q1, the MSC marginal social cost curve is greater than the marginal social benefits curve. Or we can say the supply is greater than the social supply is greater than social demand. So we need to decrease the quantity produced and also increase the price. And also decrease the price. Yes, that. No, sorry. We need to increase the price and decrease the quantity produced from market equilibrium and to social equilibrium. So this is the example for a negative externality. We can say when there is negative externality, our market equilibrium point is here. However, our social equilibrium point is here. So the social surplus at market equilibrium is less than the social plus at the social equilibrium. So that's what we call the difference of those two social surpluses is the deadweight loss. Then let's think about the positive externality. So we can say the education is a positive. Education can have the positive externality on third parties because when a person is better educated, it can have some more like positive effects on the society, right? So from the private view, the marginal benefit line would be this one, the first downsloping line. But from the society's perspective, the marginal benefits line would be this one, the upper downsloping line. So from individual, or we can say from market perspective, I only want to find the point that the private marginal benefit equal to marginal cost, that is P star. So let's see the social benefits at P star. First, the social benefits would be the area under the social marginal benefits curve. So at P star point, we extend this line and find the area under the social marginal benefits curve, which should be a sum of C plus G plus B plus D plus A plus H. And at P star, the social cost would be the area on the marginal cost curve would be H. So the difference between social benefits and social costs would be sum of CGBDA. Here is the social net benefit at P star. Then we move to the social optimal level, the social equilibrium. From the society's perspective, I want to find the interaction of marginal social costs and marginal social benefits to maximize my social surplus, right? So the intersection would be S star. So as we can see, at S star, the social benefits would be the area under social marginal benefits line would be the sum of CGF, BDE, AHIJ. And the social cost would be the area under the marginal cost curve would be HJI. So the difference between social benefits and the social costs would be CGF, BDEA. So as we can see, here is the social net benefit from market equilibrium. And here is the social net benefit from social equilibrium. The difference would be those two areas, F plus E, the red area. And we call this difference the deadweight loss from being at market efficiency. What I want to say is that the social net benefits from being market efficiency would not be the social optimal, because from the society's perspective, it has to include everyone's marginal benefits. So when we find the market equilibrium, that may be good for us suspected. How to say? So that would be a good for, like, for example, the university market, for education market. But however, the market equilibrium is not equal to the social, it's not social optimal, because there is a positive externality from education. So if you find this way is so complicated, but if you want to finish the quiz, finish the homework or exam, there is an easy way to determine the deadweight loss. the first example will again be the negative externality. We find two equilibrium. The first one is the market equilibrium. The second one is the social equilibrium. So we define the market equilibrium E, and we define the social equilibrium E star. And also we need to find the market equilibrium quantity. And we noted as QE, and we connect QE and E. Extend this line to the marginal social costs, and intersects this line with the marginal social costs. The point is A. We connect those 3 points. The intersects, the social equilibrium, the market equilibrium, the triangle enclosed by 3 points is our deadweight loss. Also, for the positive externality, first we need to find the market equilibrium, the intersection of marginal private benefit and marginal cost. And then we need to find the equilibrium quantity. We connect the market equilibrium and equilibrium quantity, extend this line to intersect with marginal social benefits A at A. And then we find the social optimal level E star. We connect those 3 points. The triangle enclosed by A, E, and E star is our deadweight loss from the positive externality. So this way would be much easier and clearer than the calculation here, I believe, but it's only useful when you are very familiar with this method and you want to save more time, and then you can use this method. So conclusions about how to find the social deadweight loss. There are 2 methods. The first method is about the calculation. First, you need to find the social benefits and the social cost, the social net benefit at market equilibrium. And then you need to find the social net benefit at the social equilibrium. The difference between those 2 benefits is a deadweight loss. The second method is more about drawing. Graphing is much more easier to understand, I believe. And if you want to learn more about the first method, if you are still confused about how to find the deadweight loss from the first using the first method, here is the link which would be very useful for you to learn how to find the social deadweight loss. And here is the conclusion for this video. Externality implies the social cost is not equal to the individual cost, and a positive externality implies the social benefits is not equal to individual benefit, and the incentive for individual are not what society wants them to do, because there are externalities. As a result, too much socially costly goods are produced. Too little socially beneficial goods are produced. The price of products responsible for pollution are too low, and as long as the costs are external, no firms has no incentives to search for ways to yield less pollution per unit of output. And also, recycling and reuse of the polluting substances are discouraged due to the cheap external costs. So here is a reference for today's video if you are interested. That's all for today. See you next time.